The year is 1215. King John of England, under intense pressure from his barons, seals a document whose provisions continue to resonate even today. For the first time in English history, a reigning monarch formally acknowledged limits on royal power and affirmed principles that would later become central to constitutional thought: government according to law, access to justice, and protection from arbitrary deprivation of property. Although sealed more than 800 years ago, Magna Carta profoundly influenced later constitutional milestones, including the English Petition of Right, the Bill of Rights, the American Declaration of Independence, and the United States Constitution. What was the historical context of Magna Carta, and why does it still matter today? The sealing of Magna Carta on June 15 of 1215 at Runnymede marked a pivotal moment in English history, but its origins lay in the troubled reign of King John. John inherited what remained of the Angevin Empire, which extended across England and large parts of western France. Although he was an energetic and often capable administrator, his rule was marked by the arbitrary exercise of power, personal vindictiveness, and the aggressive exploitation of royal prerogatives. Over time, these practices severely damaged relations between the crown and the nobility. By the early 13th century, many barons believed that the king no longer governed in accordance with law or tradition. A central source of baronial discontent was John's fiscal policy driven by costly military failures. In 1204, King Philip II of France seized Normandy and much of England's remaining continental territory. Determined to recover these lands, John embarked on an unprecedented campaign of revenue extraction, greatly increasing royal income over the following decade. Feudal obligations, such as scutage, reliefs, and feudal aids were imposed more frequently and at higher levels than before, often without meaningful consultation. These financial demands fell heavily on the nobility, who were expected to fund campaigns that brought them little benefit. Several clauses of Magna Carta directly addressed these grievances by seeking to restrain arbitrary taxation. Equally damaging was John's manipulation of the justice system. Although he claimed to uphold the law, he regularly interfered in judicial proceedings for political and financial advantage. Lands and castles were confiscated without proper legal process, justice was delayed or denied, and heavy fines were imposed to secure favorable outcomes. John's reputation for cruelty was reinforced by incidents that shocked even contemporaries accustomed to harsh rule. This included the widely believed murder of his nephew Arthur of Brittany, a rival claimant to the throne, and the starvation of Matilda de Braios and her son while in royal custody. Whether or not every detail reported by chroniclers is accurate, such stories contributed powerfully to the perception of John as a ruler who placed himself above the law. John's authority was further undermined by a prolonged conflict with Pope Innocent III over the appointment of the Archbishop of Canterbury. In 1208, England was placed under papal interdict suspending religious services, and in 1209 John was excommunicated. Although he submitted in 1213, accepting England as a papal fief and agreeing to pay tribute, many barons viewed this act as humiliating and as further evidence of his self-interested and erratic governance. By 1215, years of financial exploitation, judicial injustice and political marginalization had driven a substantial section of the baronage into open rebellion. Led by figures such as Robert Fitzwalter, the rebels captured London and demanded that the king confirm what they regarded as their ancient rights and liberties. Facing military weakness and political isolation, John was forced to negotiate. On June 15, 1215, in the meadow of Runnymede beside the Thames, he affixed his seal to the charter that became known as Magna Carta, the Great Charter. Drafted largely under the guidance of Archbishop Stephen Langton, the document was conceived as a peace settlement rather than a statement of universal rights. Written in Latin and sealed rather than signed, it reflected contemporary diplomatic practice. The Charter contained 63 clauses addressing specific feudal grievances. Its protections applied primarily to free men, a minority of the population, and did not extend to the unfree peasantry. In this sense, Magna Carta was not a democratic document, but a reaffirmation of elite customary rights. Several clauses nevertheless proved historically significant. Clauses 39 and 40 articulated limits on royal authority. Clause 39 stated that no free man could be imprisoned, dispossessed or outlawed except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land. Clause 40 promised that justice would not be sold, denied or delayed. Together, these clauses expressed an early principle of legal constraint on monarchy. Clause 12 required that certain forms of taxation, including scutage and aids beyond traditional dues, could be levied only with the common council of the kingdom, a precursor to the later principle of taxation by consent. Clause 61, the so-called Security Clause, authorized a council of 25 barons to enforce the charter by force if necessary. This extraordinary provision effectively legitimized resistance to a king who broke the law. Magna Carta failed almost immediately as a peace settlement. John sought and obtained papal support, and Pope Innocent III annulled the charter as an attack on royal authority. Civil war followed. John's death in October 1216 transformed the charter's prospects. His young son, Henry III, inherited a divided kingdom threatened by French invasion. To secure baronial support, Henry's regents reissued revised version of Magna Carta in 1216 and 1217, removing the most radical provisions, including Clause 61. In 1225, Henry issued a definitive version of the Charter in return for a grant of taxation, establishing an enduring link between consent and supply. In 1297, Edward I confirmed the 1225 text and enrolled it on the statute roll, giving Magna Carta the status of statute law. Over time, Magna Carta acquired a significance far beyond its original feudal context. In the 14th century, the phrase law of the land came to be associated with the concept of due process. In the 17th century, Sir Edward Coke famously reinterpreted Magna Carta as a fundamental guarantee of liberty for all English subjects, using it to oppose the absolutist claims of the Stuart monarchy. This later understanding shaped subsequent constitutional developments, including the Petition of Right and the Bill of Rights. Through English legal thought, Magna Carta also influenced American constitutionalism, particularly the due process protections found in the 5th and 14th Amendments to the US Constitution. Today, only 3 clauses of the 1297 version remain in force in England and Wales. the freedom of the Church of England, the liberties of the City of London, and the combined due process and justice provisions derived from clauses 39 and 40. Magna Carta matters today not because it created modern democracy in 1215, but because of the symbolic and legal authority it acquired over centuries. Its greatest legacy is the principle that government is subject to law. By asserting that even the king must act within legal bounds, Magna Carta marked a decisive step away from arbitrary rule. The Charter also remains central to the idea of access to justice. Clause 40 promise that justice would not be sold, denied or delayed continues to resonate in contemporary debates about court fees, legal aid and equality before the law. Finally, Magna Carta endures as a touchstone in ongoing struggles against executive overreach and arbitrary power. Although born as a medieval peace treaty, it survives as a living constitutional symbol, one that continues to inform discussions of law, liberty and justice in the modern world.